Will the guests please rise for the arrival of the official party and remain standing for the national anthem, which will be sung by Ensign Owens. NPTU Charleston. Attention. Huh. Nuclear Power Training Unit, Charleston, arriving. Staff, arriving.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Please remain standing for the invocation by Chaplain Brady.
If you're willing, let us bow our heads and pray. Eternal and loving God, we humbly bow our heads and lift our hearts to you in thanksgiving for this grand accomplishment of these sailors gathered together today in this graduation. God, it was you that put it in the hearts of these graduates to join the world's greatest Navy and pursue the path of a nuke, leading them to Nuclear Power Training Unit Charleston. It was you, O God, that infused these graduates with grit and grace to not only excel in their studies, but to navigate through the numerous challenges they encountered on their journey that has culminated in this graduation. O merciful Lord, remember and bless the families, near and far, who believed in and supported this graduating class, as well as the instructors and staff of our training unit who helped guided them to success. And as this class prepares to go out into the fleet as the tip of the spear, wherever they are assigned, help them to know that you, O God, will go before them and stand with them as the one who orders our steps and props us up on every leaning side, so that no error becomes eternal, no fall becomes fatal, and no problem is more powerful than your grace to bring us through. We ask all these things in the name that is above every name. Amen.
Please be seated. Captain Peters, Captain Kep, Moored Training Ship 711 Commanding Officer Commander Murphy, Side Command Master Chief, Retired Rear Admiral Shuford, distinguished guests, family and friends, welcome to Naval Nuclear Power Training Unit Charleston graduation ceremony for Class 2206. I am Commander Fitzpatrick, the Executive Officer of NPTU, and we are pleased that you could join us as we recognize the sailors who dedicated so much of their time and effort in this final phase of their training. While we will recognize those students who stand out from their peers, it is important to remember that each student dedicated thousands of hours in pursuit of this moment. Today is about the accomplishments of our sailors as they complete the Naval Nuclear Propulsion Training Pipeline. Please join me in a round of applause for our families, friends, and shipmates who played a large part in our sailors' success. You have our heartfelt thanks. Thank you. It is now my pleasure to introduce the NPTU Charleston Commanding Officer, Captain Reed Kep. Captain Kep is a career submariner who has had command of USS Colorado and is now in his major command tour as Commanding Officer of Nuclear Power Training Unit Charleston. Captain.
Well, good morning, y'all. Oh boy, it is getting hot in here. Good morning, y'all. All right, yeah, you came to South Carolina, so you're going to get a y'all in there whether you like it or not, I guess. Hey, welcome to celebrate this accomplishment today. So you've invested a lot here. I'm going to take just a minute to give some shout-outs of gratitude and thanks. I'll educate a little bit about what our sailors and officers have accomplished today, what opportunities they have, then I'd like to get to know you a little bit before we get on with the rest of the ceremony. Fair enough? Okay, so first off, to the staff here at Patriot's Point, I can't think of a better venue to send our teams off to go report to our submarines and aircraft carriers around the world than in the hangar bay of USS Yorktown. And I just want to give a shout out and a thanks to the staff here at Patriot's Point. They allow us to do this every 8 weeks, so we send out about 400 enlisted and officer graduates from Patriot's Point to continue to report out around the world to man and equip our submarines and aircraft carriers and other facilities. So thank you to the Patriots Point staff. I'd also like to give a shout out to my staff. So I've got about 1,300 active duty staff, and they're working right now. They come from around the fleet. They're equipped to train and certify our students. They work 24/7, 365. We have 3 nuclear reactors that are converted fast attack submarines that are purposed to train our students in reactor operations. That's complemented with state-of-the-art simulation facilities to build extra capacity and enrich the level of knowledge as they get ready to go operate our plants around the world. I've also complemented with about 300 Naval Nuclear Laboratory staff that help us further the training mission and maintain the material status of our ships and our facilities. And also have my admin staff, which you'll see many around here that are process the thousands of pay and administrative needs of our sailors and officers as they go through the training pipeline and report out to their fleet. So I'd like to give a shout out to my staff who's out working right now as we speak to still train the next class. And I realize I probably should start selling like those little fans that blow mist and just put NPTU on them. I think we could fund some really good picnics, Master Chief, if we did that. So yeah, it's starting to heat up. Hey, so let me tell you about the students. Let me tell you about your graduates, what we do here. If you're anything like me and you've got any teenagers or college students around at the dinner table, sometimes it's hard to get much more than a good, right, or something like that. So let me help educate you. for just a second, right? So who is graduating today? So we're graduating a team of electricians. We call them electricians mate. They're responsible for our power distribution systems and our maintenance and all the other services on our ships. We have our reactor operators or electronics technicians who operate our reactor vessels and the supporting equipment themselves. We also have mechanical operators who operate our mechanical systems, our propulsion systems, and our power generation systems. And we also select from our mechanical operators another cadre of sailors that we will call engineering laboratory technicians. You'll hear them called ELTs. And they're responsible for maintaining the chemistry and radiological controls of our primary plants for our integrity and our continued operability of our plants. So lots going on, right? For our officer cadre, you'll find in the team here we have our surface warfare officers. Now, all these lieutenants have already completed a initial sea tour and have warfare qualifications from a combatant out in the fleet, and they've come here to get their nuclear training before they report to their first aircraft carrier. There's a large group of folks that are qualifying to go report to their first submarine, whether that's a fast attack submarine, a guided missile submarine, or a ballistic missile submarine. They're getting ready to report out to the fleet as well. I also have, you'll see some civilians that are coming across the stage. They're working for Naval Nuclear Laboratories, and they're trained and certified through the same qualification program that our sailors are, and they will take up staff with me, and they'll contribute in a very meaningful way to the training of future generations of officers and sailors, so we're super proud to have them. And one last one is our direct input officers. These are officers that we've recruited out of college. They've committed to 5 years of getting certified and trained in nuclear operations, and they'll again report to me as staff, and they'll work for 5 years in a training capacity, operating the plant and training our students and officers as well. As we continue to use them to what they've committed for. So there's a lot going on. Our sailors, when they leave here, like I said, they're reporting out to the fleet. Some are going to be staying behind for ELT school with me. Some of the high-performing students that have volunteered, mostly volunteered at least, they're going to take a role of junior staff instructor. So they'll spend about 2 years with me. So they'll graduate here and go right back to work today. Well, maybe not today, but they're going to go right back to work. And they'll stay the first 2 years of their commitment, and they'll certify through the staff training process to continue the training mission. Others will be going straight to Nuclear Field Weld School, which is a great opportunity, perhaps propulsion plant, local area network, that's a mouthful. Think cybersecurity for our networks that run our propulsion plants. So lots of great opportunities that our folks are going to. And we also have a large group of folks that have submitted for officer packages to achieve a commission based on their performance and their record and things like that. That gets reviewed, and so they've got those packages out. And many you'll see today have already re-enlisted. We have a great program for our sailors that once they qualify at 2 years of service, they can re-enlist for immediate promotion, great bonuses, continual naval service, and a guaranteed shore duty. Just a lot of opportunities. And I just want you to know what are out there. It's not just a one and done. Get your qualifications and get to work. We really want to invest in the professional and personal development of our folks, and I want you, because I know that that is something you're interested in. And so I just want you to be educated on that, okay? Now, let me learn a little bit about you, all right? So first, if you're a veteran in the crowd, I would ask that you stand so we can honor you. If you're willing and able, would you stand, please? Thank you. Thank you. All right, now, if you're a spouse of someone that's graduating today, if you're willing and able, would you please stand? Thank you. And I just can't say enough about my thanks and gratitude to you being part of this Navy journey without us. Us that are in uniform cannot do it without our spouses, and many of our spouses are also in uniform too. And I'll just tell you, like, as you get to go on this journey, I'm just encouraged by our communities, and our shipmates are going to reach out to you, make you as part of the team. I've seen over the years our spouses volunteer in the community, volunteer on the ship, help others along the way while they're raising families, changing jobs, supporting their sailor, and it's just eye-watering what you do to keep our nation running, and we don't thank you enough. So there's that. Okay, now let me get to know the parents and the families and those that travel here. I know that you invested a lot to travel here. You've really been invested in your sailor. Now, I'm not sure if you're here because you wanted to come to Charleston or if you just wanted to make sure that they actually had a job and we're not going to be coming back to your house. I'm not sure what that was. I know why I would be here. But anyway, regardless of that, it's clear that you have had a huge investment and you're continuing to support. Now, let me get just to know a little bit about you before we get to the ceremony. What about who thinks they traveled from the farthest? This is interactive. Hawaii, okay. What else? Got an Alaska in the back. Okay, what else? There's always somebody that says Texas, right? You know Texas is not as far away as Hawaii. We know that, right? Okay. My command master chief is from Texas. He's like, but it's really big. All right. Okay. All right. Well, look. Hey, what else we got? Poland. Wow. Okay. Okay. New Mexico, I heard. That's great. Anything else? California? Colombia? Norway. Man, we didn't even get out of the continental U.S. on the last graduation. Like, I feel like we're an international, like, this is we got it going on today. This is great. All right. Hey, thanks for sharing. Thanks. I just wanted to use that to demonstrate how much our nation is not just relying on the sailors that are serving, but on their spouses, on our veterans, on their families. Just thank you for that. And lastly, before I introduce our guest speaker, when your sailors come up here across the stage, they just told me this week. They said that they love it when you embarrass them. I love it. They like hearing things like, that's my sailor, or I love you, that's my sailor, that's my They love hearing it. They like you to say it loud, and they like you to say it proud. They really love it, right? So I encourage you to do that. I certainly encourage you to come up to the front and take a photo. We've got the time for it. We'll make sure you get it. And so thank you for that. All right. Hey, without any further discussion, let me go ahead and introduce our guest speaker, Captain Peters, a career submariner like I am. He's commanded 2 submarines, USS Louisiana and USS Georgia. He's currently serving as a chief of staff in Kings Bay, Georgia at Group 10. That's the hub for our Atlantic Coast based ballistic missile nuclear submarines and our guided missile submarines. So please welcome Captain Peters.
All right. Hey, good afternoon, or good morning, I guess. So this is going to be fun. So the binder that was here is, I have, where is it? That's fine. I can go off memory. I've done this twice, so I'm on my 3rd try, but thanks for the save. So ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, families, it's great here. So before I go into the meat of my speech, I'm looking at the students. So some additional instructions. You thought the instruction wasn't over. So now that I've done this 2 times and I'm about to do it 3 times with a bigger class, families, like the CO said, go ahead and, embarrass your sailor. The other one is when you come up for the students, you got to tell me where the family is and point in the crowd where they're at. That'll make it quicker so we can, do photo time with the family. All right, because this is rare. You don't get a chance to be with your family in your Navy career that often. So this is a good time to be recognized, and because you've earned it. All right, and I mean that. So again, thanks again. Any questions on the instructions? We're good? All right, awesome. All right, so it's warm here, and you recognize that I'm between them and their freedom. So I'm holding them hostage right now because I was asked to. So fun story, 3 weeks ago, I was at work, and I got a phone call from MTTU Charleston. Like, hey, you want to speak at the graduation? I'm like, what? And it's funny because I've had nothing to do with the prototype my entire career after I graduated. So I'm like, sure, I'll come. I've never been to Charleston before. So that's a trivia question for the class that's graduating. When you come up on the stage, if you know the answer, how is it that I can be 29 years in the Navy and have never set foot in Charleston, South Carolina until yesterday? Okay, and I am a graduate of Power School and Prototype. So that's the trivia question for you guys. So then I thought, prototype, that's the last time I had anything to do with nuclear power training. That was 10,199 days ago. 10,199 days ago. That was August 18th, 1995 for you fact checkers out there. So I'm like, holy cow. So what am I going to talk to, hard-charging, high-motivated students and offer some wisdom to them in 5 minutes or less? So I'm going to share a couple things with you, so I'll keep this short. First of all, as you graduate today, welcome to the family. And what I mean by that is now you're officially part of our program, the Naval Nuclear Propulsion Program. Qualifying at prototype and completing nuclear power training signifies that you are now a basically trained nuclear sailor. And with that, you now join the hundreds of thousands of us who have worn the uniform, stood the watch, and around the world on our nuclear-powered warships. And with that carries tremendous responsibility, which I'm going to talk about. And three things. So one is you join Rickover's legacy, okay? And there's three things within that you should remember. First of all, you and I, we're caretakers of an unforgiving technology. That's nuclear power. Okay, never forget that. And I encourage you to do your job, just like those who came before you. You and I, earn the trust of our nation through uncompromising high standards and a commitment to excellence. Another way to put it is, I back you up, you back me up. Last, we're charged to uphold the standards of those who came before us. Take that seriously. You've earned your rite of passage through here, but your job begins after you graduate, to stand watch on a nuclear-powered warship in the fleet. And that's really where it begins. And, this commitment that you've made starting today from your graduation ends at the end of your life. Rickover was big on service, okay? And the service starts in your time in the Navy, but many of us who've gone before you have gone into society and served in great capacities, up to the President of the United States. And, Rickover's charge was not only to be a good nuclear operator, but to be a good citizen. So serve with integrity and purpose. Second one is your service in the Navy matters. People have probably told you that, and I'm going to say it again because you're now, after you graduate on this stage, you're going to the fleet. And many of you are going to deploy to confront the rise of China. Many of you are going to deploy to confront Russia. And that's real, okay? Where you're at right now, sure, it's real, you're a families, but you're going to go serve your country, and your service matters. And that's really where it starts. Now, to back down a little bit, to go back and ask myself, what would Ensign Peters want to be told back in 1995? I wish someone would have told me this. So I'm going to share it with you, and with the advent of modern technology, I'm being filmed 100 times and broadcast on live media right now. So if you don't remember, you can at least go back and look. Keep it simple in life. 3 rules that I always talk to my sailors about. First one is show up to work on time. That's a good start, okay? Have a good attitude. Got to have a good attitude because you never know where you're going to have a down day and the shipmate next to you is the one that's going to pick you back up. It's a team effort. If there's one thing that this program has tried to teach you and instill in every one of you is no one individual alone can get the job done. It takes a team. It's the person next to you. The last one is do your job. Be a team player, okay? I can't stress that enough, whether it's qualifications, whether it's standing watch, whether it's speaking on stage or engaging the public. All right, do your job. And with that, one last pro tip. You're going to be coming up on stage. Some of you have stage fright. I've had students that have tried to literally run through the stage, like, I need to get through here as quickly as possible. It's not how it rolls, okay? So what's going to happen is I'm going to shake your hand first. A couple other people are going to shake your hands. You're going to get a couple stops. And again, families, please take pictures. This is great. Embarrass your sailor. All right. Again, congratulations and welcome to the family.
Thank you, Captain. The Commanding Officer's Personal Excellence Award is presented to the sailor chosen from each crew who exhibits the greatest degree of professionalism. The selection criteria for this award takes into consideration student effort, motivation, adaptability, personal development, and performance of duty. Again, I'm not going to. Following sailors are the winners of the Commanding Officer's Personal Excellence Award. ETN 3 Sean Hart, headed to USS Correction. Sorry about that. ETN 3 Jonathan Bell, headed to USS Carl Vinson. EMN 3 Haley Osborne, headed to USS Ohio. ETN 3 Ian Kirby, headed to USS Ronald Reagan. MMN 3 Aaron Spencer, headed to ELT school. MMN 3 Jacob Wall, headed to PCU John F. Kennedy. And now for the rest of MTS 711 Class 2206. MMN 3 Felix Adama, headed to USS San Juan. MMN 3 Armando Banderas, headed to USS Boise. Ensign Noah Bedard, headed to USS Connecticut. Lieutenant Junior Grade Nathan Berkey, headed to USS Nimitz. MMN 3 Brandon Belt, headed to USS North Dakota. Ensign Donald Black III, headed to USS Arkansas. Ensign Sarah Brewster, headed to USS Washington. EMN 3 Seth Brundage, headed to USS Michigan. Ms. Lucia Brewski, staying at NPTU to teach as a civilian. ETN 3 Adam Church, headed to USS New Jersey. ETN 3 Jordan Claflin, headed to USS Gerald R. Ford. MMN 3 Richard Cohoon, headed to USS Hartford. Lieutenant Junior Grade Mary Cole, headed to PCU John F. Kennedy. Lieutenant Anastasia Countess, headed to USS Harry S. Truman. EMN 3 Evan Davis, headed to USS Nimitz. EMN 3 Matthew Davis, headed to USS Florida. ETN 3 James Debradinas, headed to USS Jefferson City. ETN 3 Jeremiah Dixon, headed to USS John Warner. EMN 3 Carter Doyle, headed to USS Carl Vinson. EMN 3 Aiden Ada, headed to USS Columbia. Miss Grace Eddy, staying at NPTU to teach as a civilian. Ensign Connor L., headed to USS Hampton. Lieutenant Junior Grade Matthew Elia, headed to USS Theodore Roosevelt. Ensign Joseph Elson, headed to USS Nevada Blue. EMN 3 James Carmona, headed to USS Iowa. MMN 3 Nuriel Frey, headed to USS Oklahoma. Lieutenant Junior Grade Paul Fletcher, headed to USS Vermont. EMN 3 Seth Flores, headed to USS Oklahoma. MMN 3 David Fories, headed to ELT School. Lieutenant Junior Grade Vincenzo Freschi, headed to USS Gerald R. Ford. EMN 3 Colin Fresina, headed to USS Montpelier. MMN 3 Austin Furman, headed to USS Asheville. MMN 3 Ryan Garces, headed to USS Albany. EMN 3 Chance Garrett, heading to USS Harry S. Truman. MMN 3 Anthony John Gregorio, headed to USS George Washington. Mr. Quinlan Goddard, staying at NPTU Charleston to teach as a civilian. Ms. Madison Green, also staying at NPTU to teach. EMN 3 Robert Greenwood, heading to USS Hyman G. Rickover. Lieutenant Junior Grade Robert Guild, headed to USS Dwight D. Eisenhower. MMN 3 Nico Goudelet, headed to USS George Washington. MMN 3 Hampton Hansen, headed to ELT School. EMN 3 Austin Harper, headed to USS Alexandria. MMN 3 Kevin Harris, headed to USS Minnesota. ETN 3 Clay Hawkins, headed to USS Alaska. EMN 3 Sydney Hazlett, headed to USS Boise. MMN 3 Ryan Head, headed to USS Rhode Island. Ensign Christopher Henderson, headed to USS Indiana. MMN FN Jacob Henderson, headed to USS Nimitz. EMN 3 Herbert Henyon, headed to USS Kentucky. MMN 3 Trey Hirschenbach, headed to ELT School. MMN 3 Christian Hernandez, headed to ELT School. EMN 3 Joseph Hirsch, headed to USS Hartford. EMN 3 Logan Holbrook, headed to USS George Washington. ETN 3 Jacob Holder, headed to USS Minnesota. ETN 3 Braden Homer, headed to USS Carl Vinson. ETN 3 Aiden Hunter, headed to USS George Washington. Lieutenant Junior Grade Robert Johns, headed to USS Gerald R. Ford. Ensign Charles Johnson, headed to USS Colorado. MMN 3 Nicholas Julik, headed to USS Key West. MMN 3 Timothy Justice, headed to ELT School. Ensign Leo Kaan, headed to USS Scranton. EMN 3 Kenneth Kelly, headed to USS Scranton. MMN 3 Brendan Kennedy, headed to USS Harry S. Truman. EMN 3 James Kozlowski, headed to USS George Washington. Ensign James Krychek, headed to USS Annapolis. Lieutenant Joshua Cragg, headed to USS John C. Stennis. EMN 3 Luke Landman, headed to USS Greenville. MMN 3 Samuel Langer, headed to USS George Washington. ETN 3 Sean Lasky, headed to USS Nebraska. MMN 3 Leon Lawfrey, headed to USS Cheyenne. EMN 3 Thomas Lee, headed to USS Theodore Roosevelt. Ensign Jonathan Lopez. ETN 3 Patrick Lose, headed to USS Jefferson City. EMN 3 Joshua Loudon, headed to USS Dwight D. Eisenhower. MMN 3 Justin Lyons, headed to ELT school. Ensign John McCrease, headed to USS Wyoming. Ensign TJ Machko, headed to USS Helena. MMN 3 Thomas Mallet, headed to Stay 21 Officer Commissioning Program. EMN 3 Christopher Marker, headed to USS Harry S. Truman. ETN 3 Matthew Markley, headed to USS Colorado. MMN 3 Francisco Martinez, headed to USS George H.W. Bush. ETN 3 Trenton Maybe, headed to USS Georgia. ETN 3 Logan McCarthy, headed to USS Carl Vinson. MMN 3 Nicholas Medina, headed to USS Theodore Roosevelt. Lieutenant Junior Grade Isaac Melendez, headed to USS Ronald Reagan. EMN 3 Carver Menke, headed to USS George Washington. MMN 3 Bennett Miller, headed to USS Delaware. MMN 3 Shelby Miller, headed to ELT school. EMN 3 Trent Miller, headed to PCU John F. Kennedy. ETN 3 Noah Manati, headed to USS Ronald Reagan. MMN 3 Sebastian Morales, headed to ELT school. MMN 3 Jonathan Morpeau, headed to USS Colorado. Lieutenant Junior Grade Dylan Morrison, headed to USS Alaska. MMN 3 Eduardo Moya Gallego, headed to USS Kentucky Gold. MMN3 Jonathan Myers, headed to USS Nimitz. ETN3 Christopher Nadramia, headed to USS California. MMN3 Michael Naughton, headed to ELT school. EMN3 Daniel Nelson, headed to USS Toledo. Lieutenant Junior Grade Sarah Wynn, headed to USS New Jersey. Ensign Matthew O'Brien, headed to USS Albany. Ensign Thomas Owens. Ensign Chris Park, headed to USS North Dakota. Mr. Nicholas Perriton, staying at NPTU Charleston to teach as a civilian. ETN3 Ashton Powell, headed to USS Key West. EMN3 Anthony Randall, headed to USS Rhode Island. MMN3 Jonathan Rands, headed to ELT school. MMN3 Nicholas Razzo, headed to welding school, then USS West Virginia. MMN3 Aiden Reed, headed to USS Vermont. ETN3 Kyle Reichert, headed to USS John C. Stennis. ETN3 Caleb Rickert, headed to USS Cheyenne. EMN3 Adam Rigler, headed to USS Annapolis. MMN3 Tanadon Roduxa, headed to ELT school. MMN3 Lane Rose, headed to USS Boise. MMN3 Tyler Sant, headed to USS George Washington. MMN3 Nolan Scherer, headed to ELT school. Ensign Thomas Schwartz, headed to USS Delaware. ETN3 Mason Selman, headed to USS New Jersey. EMN3 Ocean Shepherd, headed to USS Dwight D. Eisenhower. MMN3 Bennett Shuford, headed to USS Dwight D. Eisenhower. MMN3 Alejandro Sierra, headed to ELT school. MMN FN Joshua Spencer, headed to PCU John F. Kennedy. ETN3 Magnus Stanley, headed to USS Iowa. EMN3 Chase Stedman, headed to USS Colorado. EMN3 Andrew Thomas, headed to USS Dwight D. Eisenhower. MMN3 Haddon Thompson, headed to ELT school. EMN3 Logan Thompson, headed to USS Mississippi. EMN3 Austin Thorpe, headed to USS George H.W. Bush. MMN3 Tito Vega, headed to USS John C. Stennis. ETN3 Nicholas Velez, headed to USS George H.W. Bush. EMN 3 Camille Villarreal, headed to USS Harry S. Truman. MMN 3 Brian Vo, headed to USS John C. Stennis. Ensign Kelly Vore, headed to USS Georgia. MMN 3 Seth Walker, headed to Stay 21 Officer Commissioning Program. ETN 3 Joseph Wilkins, headed to USS George Washington. MMN 3 Nolan Willoughby, headed to USS Annapolis. Mr. Cameron Wong, staying at NPTU to teach as a civilian. EMN 3 Joshua Roten, headed to USS Michigan. Lieutenant Junior Grade Stacy Zupa, headed to USS Theodore Roosevelt. We get a round of applause for all of our graduates. Ladies and gentlemen, please remain standing while Chaplain Brady delivers the benediction.
Shall we pray? Now, gracious Lord, as this graduation comes to an end, we prepare to leave this place. We ask that your loving presence go with us. When adversity comes to us as we attempt to stand our watch, be near us. When anxiety shackles our hearts and minds, steady us, so we look back in thanksgiving and forward in future with abiding hope. We ask this in your holy name. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes our graduation ceremony. Thank you for attending, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day at Patriots Point and in Charleston. Once again, congratulations to the graduates, and thank you, family, friends, and shipmates, for being here today. On behalf of the commanding officer, technical director, and site command master chief, I wish you all fair winds and following seas. NPTU Charleston, attention. Dismissed.